All right, welcome to another episode of the Presale Pulse, Fraser Valley edition. And this time we've mixed it up a little bit. It's our third show together, and you said, I refuse to work in the Lower Mainland unless it's in Fraser Valley. So
absolutely, yeah, the conditions were getting bad. I mean, I'd actually take a bridge over, another 40 minutes. It's just not acceptable, not acceptable. Not to mention, I can literally see my house from here. I mean, we're in my backyard. It just doesn't get any better.
It's always a pleasure.
Pleasure being here.
So as always, today we're going to talk about everything resale and pre-sale in the Fraser Valley. I'm Ryan Lalonde. I have my amazing co-host, managing director and partner, Brittany Reimer. And today we're going to talk about what the heck is happening out in the Fraser Valley. We're a little bit nervous because we keep following these trends, and it seems like you guys are running out of inventory pretty quick.
We are, yeah. I mean, it feels like every week we're scrambling here. We're scrambling here for inventory. Everybody is. It's not just us. It's absolutely right across the board. We're seeing it with resale and pre-sale.
So we have a fun show today. Really excited. We're going to talk about some of the great resale data that we're noticing, some of the trends and the insights that we're certainly sharing with our clients. We're going to touch on some of the pre-sale, although that's fairly short, primarily because there's just not enough to talk about. And of course, as always, all the information in this video is all linked out down below. So check that out. And before you click on any of those links, make sure you hit a subscribe button. Give us a high five. That gives you access to all of the content that we're curating on a daily, a weekly, and a monthly basis. And with all that out the door, let's jump into it. Why don't we start with resale stats, sales and listings. What's going on?
So we saw 1,718 sales in the Fraser Valley for the month of January. We didn't follow our streak of 2,000 sales that we've had for the last 5 months, but nonetheless, super, super strong January, 76% above what the 10-year average is for January sales. So no doubt about it, it was another strong month.
Can we just back that up for a moment? 76% higher than the 10-year average.
Crazy, I know, yeah.
And how is that translating into our sales centers today?
Well, we're definitely seeing more traffic. I think MLS, of course, is a big resource for us all. I think most buyers out there right now and realtors are looking to MLS for a resource, just given most of these buyers are also looking in the resale market. We talked about this last month, but with the resale stats really tightening up, more and more are interested in what's going on in pre-sale. So having that presence online, particularly in that area, is extremely important.
What's really important to note, and we've touched on this in the past though, but the Fraser Valley market is somewhat different than the Greater Vancouver metro market, and that's primarily because townhouses are pre-sold out here typically 3 to 6 months in advance of completion, and so that relationship between resale and pre-sale is a little bit more blurred than what we see in parts of Metro Vancouver, where many of the tower sites are anywhere from 3 to 5 years out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. And the closer that we get to completion with this product and with this inventory, the more desirable it is. We've seen some big premiums for that move-in ready pre-sale product versus something that is a 12-month to 24-month delay for completion. So definitely something to watch, and a great point, right?
So let's jump into composite price and benchmark prices now in resale. Incredible upward growth. The Lower Mainland, Metro Vancouver is 0.9%, and the Fraser Valley was 1.1%, so a notch above what was happening down on the other side of the bridge. Also really important to note that 8.5% year over year increase on benchmark price. That is an outstanding pace. Much of that is coming from the fact that it includes both single family, townhouse, and apartment, but when you hone in on the single family marketplace, it's over 15% appreciation in 1 year. That is some record-breaking appreciation that we've seen in the Fraser Valley over the past decade.
Absolutely. And when we think about the single family market, what's interesting is, it took a long time to pick up, right? I mean, the Fraser Valley single family market has always been very steady and consistent, but what we've seen over the last 12 months is really unprecedented. So really great to see that type of activity. What I'm really curious about is how this is going to affect the assignment market. So what we've seen on the land side anyways is that we're seeing 2 or 3 assignments per land deal happen in some cases prior to completion. And so, that'll have a ripple effect on the pre-sale product. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And with that type of appreciation over 12 months, I can't deny the fact that there's going to be some assignment activity happening. Absolutely.
We were having this discussion just before we started recording, and you were also highlighting the notion that many of those assignment flips are not happening in market, they're happening out of market. And so we see traditionally developers that might have been more active in Metro Vancouver jumping into the Fraser Valley market, looking to be part of what's happening here long term, and as a result of that, maybe paying somewhat of a premium relative to some of the locals that have been in business in the Fraser Valley for the last decade. So Brittany, we can't not talk about sales to listing ratios in the Fraser Valley, and a little bit of a softer month for you guys in January, just hovering a bit above 40%.
Really? What do you consider a softer month? We're still at over 40% here. What's Greater Vancouver at? In the 20s? I mean, like, who's in the 20s?
But in all seriousness, 40.8%, obviously that's an incredible sales ratio. What it's really demonstrating is just the strong demand that the Fraser Valley has right now, and a serious lack of supply to be able to keep up with it. And even though that is a few steps back from where we were just 30 days ago, our expectation is that demand is going to continue to build. There's some reasons for that you were talking about a little bit earlier on today.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely saw new listings increase, and with those new listings increase, of course, we're gonna notice that sales to listing ratio starts to balance off. So still really strong. I mean, we saw 67% sales to listing ratio in the townhouse market. That's very strong. Still 52% in the detached market, continues to fire up, and I believe we're still at 20% for the condo sales to listing ratio.
You know, and so much of this has to do with mortgage rates and incredibly low numbers, right?
I'm so glad you mentioned that. While we were coming here today, although my drive is only 5 minutes from the office, had the opportunity to pick up the phone to Scott Jingles with Nest Mortgage, and some of the stats he was sharing around mortgage rates right now are insane. We're talking about variable at 1.29 and fixed rates at 1.49. I mean, we're rock bottom on rates, so there's absolutely no question as to why we're seeing this type of activity. So even with the increase in listings, that demand continues to still be there, and so we're seeing strong sales to listing ratios through the month of January.
In Greater Vancouver, specifically the metro area, we've seen benchmark price now catch up to that watermark that was set some years ago, just before we saw the stress test come into play and really have an impact on values. And so we've made up that ground now through the recession and through the pandemic that obviously was part of 2020's significant changes in volume and in price point. So Brittany, relatively slow month for pre-sale in the Fraser Valley. That's not because there's a lack of demand, that's predominantly because there's just no supply. There's a few projects that I think that we should touch on, though, that obviously very close to coming to market, and then also representing some of the big successes that the Fraser Valley has had in the last 60 days.
Absolutely, yeah. So we did see, or we do anticipate that there will be 2 new upcoming projects this month, which is exciting. Most exciting is Legacy on Park Avenue, first CLT building in the Fraser Valley. Will be really interesting to watch and see how that product does in that marketplace. Larger format homes. So again, it'll be really interesting to see. The other really exciting project that we have is the great one in Guildford. We're expecting that project to come within the next 30 days here. They're taking suite request forms. They're busy. They're really, really busy. Our insider sources say that that they are going to have a really successful campaign. But what's most interesting about that is just watching how they're able to continue to sell Dawson and Sawyer out of that South Surrey townhouse project that they've been in for a while.
So Brittany, I think that's a wrap.
Thanks so much for joining us in the Fraser Valley.
We should have been hosting these out here months ago.
We should have. We will. We'll continue to host them out here.
Love it. With all that being said, of course, everything that you just learned through this session, everything is linked out down below. So feel free to drop us a line if there's anything that you feel like we missed. We're always looking for feedback. And of course, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. That's going to give you access to tons of content well beyond just the Pulse. And if there's nothing else that you have to share?
No, nothing else. I mean, I think you nailed it. If there's anything else specific, we tend to be a little vague on some of our numbers here. So if there's anything anybody needs or any questions or anything from a clarity perspective, feel free to reach out.
Perfect.
All good. Yeah.
Well, we'll see you next month.